going to have a keynote by somebody from Monterrey, Mexico, Jose. He is actually the Education Innovation Director from Technology Institute of Monterrey, Tecnologico de Monterrey. And what's interesting about that is this is the premier technology institute in Mexico. And they turn out more engineers and more tech people than any place else in Mexico. So I'd like to welcome Jose to the stage now. Hopefully he is close by. Thank you for joining me and welcoming Jose.
Thanks. Hi. Well, I think this works like this. No. Maybe they're having problems. Okay, that's it. So I work in Tec de Monterrey. Maybe some of you doesn't know what Tec de Monterrey is, so I just have this slide. It's a private, not-for-profit university. It's very large. We have 90,000 students in 26 cities. We have 30 campuses. And I think that we are well known for three things. Entrepreneurship. We are very well ranked in entrepreneurship, and our students and alumni does a lot of entrepreneurship in Mexico. And also we have a large online operation, and we are recognized for being very innovative, not only in the use of technology, but also in the use of pedagogy. So in Tec de Monterrey, we think that education, higher education, is on the verge of a revolution. It's changing. And we decided to focus this in two different ways. One is on what's happening right now, and we call that Tech 21 model. And one is what will happen in 2030, and that's Techlabs. And what is happening right now, Tech 21 is a model that we have been developing during the last years, and it will be in full implementation in August 2019. And this model, which is based on the idea that the important things are the competencies, but not only the disciplinary things, but the horizontal competencies, the power skills, soft skills, and that these skills cannot be developed in the classroom. And that's why we developed a model that is challenge-based. This model is a model in which the student has to solve a problem, a real-world problem, that has been defined by the professor. And this problem comes from an enterprise, an ONG, or a government. And these students that will be working on those challenges will have learning modules attached to those challenges, learning models that can be self-paced, online, face-to-face, flip learning, etc. And the model will also allow them to have a lot of flexibility in the curriculum. So they will be moving from small challenges to big challenges at the end, and they will have the opportunity to find out where's their passion, and at the end decide what kind of engineer or what kind of business degree they want to have, etc., because we're a full university. So that's what we are doing for Tech 21 model, and that's what we are doing right now for the change on the model. But we think that education is also changing in the future even more. So we have a small unit that I run. It's called Techlabs. We are a group of around 20-something people. And we have three main objectives in this unit of Techlabs. The first one is to identify the threats and opportunities in education, and we do that with our Observatory of Education and Innovation. And we have also a conference, which is the largest conference in Latin America and Spain in education and innovation. And the observatory has just won an award from the Open Education Consortium. Everything is open. We start to do the observatory because we said if our professors and our directors doesn't go to see what is going on in the world, let's bring the work to our professors. So we curate information. We do small reports, which are called EduBits, and in-depth reports that are called EduTrends. And these reports, then we started to share that with some of our friends from other universities. They say, this is good stuff. Why don't you share it with the world? Well, right now we have more than 200,000 people that receive this report. And this, so you can also go there and subscribe if you're interested. I invite you. And we also have this conference, which is the biggest conference in Spanish in educational technology. And it's in our Mexico City campus. The call for paper is open, so I invite you also to apply, and you can see there the URL. The second thing that we do is experimenting, because we cannot find out how education will be in 2030. We have to do stuff and pilots to find out how it will be. And we do that with projects of our own. We have projects related to, for instance, alternatives for credentialization in higher education. We have a bootcamp project, MOOCs, and we are running also projects related to incentivized competition on the style of X Prize. For instance, to develop, our interest is new ways of doing research with that. How can we generate knowledge? So one is alternative of that. We also have a Novus, which is an internal competition for funding of projects from our professors. It's around $800,000 each year that we found 100 projects, more or less, from very little to more money. And we are launching our EdtechxEurope because we think that the startup environment is doing a lot of things, and we want to have a footprint there. So we're launching our EdtechxEurope. The application is open right now until the 31st of July. So I invite you also to do that. And we are doing that with Orion Startups, which is also our accelerator, general accelerator of Tec de Monterrey. This is the EdtechxEurope. Okay, so you will find here what usually you have. Not only the brand, that is a strong brand recognized in educational technology and innovation in Latin America and Spain, but also our community, capital, and advice from our, potential advice from our partners, the network of partners of Tec de Monterrey. And third, which is the main subject of this talk, is the measuring of impact. So a year ago, we realized that we always thought that we were very innovative, but we realized that we were very good at experimenting and not necessarily innovating. So in order to innovate, you have to add value. You have to be sure that you're adding value to your customers, in this case, students, and the society in general. So we decided that we needed to measure what we were doing. And we have to measure the projects that we do without leadership, top-down projects, and the projects that are done by our professors, bottom-up projects. And we developed this that is called Escala. Escala is like a stairway in Spanish, and it gives the idea of improvement. It's not a project, it's not a framework for analysis that kills projects. It's a framework for analysis to learn from projects. So Escala answers the question how to measure the effectiveness of educational and innovation projects. And also the guide has a Creative Commons license. You can download the complete guide with all the criteria and also all the methodology that we are using to evaluate these projects. I have to say that we did that with the efficacy team from Pearson and our School of Education. And the project lasted 1 year. So the objectives of Escala is to establish the criteria to measure the projects for professors and the university, and also to provide a guide and a methodology to do how to evaluate those criteria, and then to identify projects from which we can learn and that we can implement on a large scale. So to have a portfolio that, and we can learn from that portfolio of different projects that we have in the university. The criteria are these 5 criteria here. The first one is related to the learning outcomes, not only the disciplinary learning outcomes, but also the horizontal learning outcomes, those power skills I was talking about. And it's important to know if the students are learning what we expect them to gain with that project, with that innovation. The nature of innovation is how innovative is the project. The third one is the institutional alignment. Maybe it's a very good project, but it's not aligned to the vision or the culture of the institution. So what I have to change to make it better and to make it fit in our institutional culture. Growth potential is the potential for scalability. For instance, if a project is very good but needs a museum that is only available in our Mexico City campus, then it cannot scale. What can you change on the project to make it scalable? And the last but not least is the financial viability that needs no explanation. So to give you an example just of the learning outcomes criteria, it becomes a rubric with 3 different sub-criteria. And if we take the top of the rubric, you will see that it goes from red to amber green to green, where red is the worst case of evaluation and green is the best case of evaluation. So in the worst case, the learning outcomes are not declared or are not measurable, and in the best case, the learning outcomes are well-defined and clearly measurable and specific. So for every one of them, we have these sub-criteria. We have a toolbox. Unfortunately, the toolbox is only in Spanish. I cannot share that with you, but the guide is there. The toolbox is necessary because not everyone knows how to evaluate everything. For instance, learning outcomes or the financial viability. Professors, for instance, are not able all the time to measure that. They don't have the tools. Some example of projects that we have done that I think it will be interesting, in which we are evaluating them with this guide, is augmented reality project on math to make it visible. And the students can play it with an iPad and a marker to make the equation on a 3D graph, and then make cuts with the other marker. And when it's used in the classroom, for us, it's very important. There is not only the technology, but also the pedagogy. So the students work in, this is one of our regular classrooms with chairs and wheels. For instance, I don't know if Esther is here. And they are working on teams. As you can see, they're not working by themselves because there's a pedagogy behind it so that they can learn from the exercise that they're doing. Another example of a project is distance education. As we have a lot of campus, we started in distance education a long time ago, like in 25 years, using satellite, and then we moved to the internet very soon. Online learning, we are one of the bigger online learning providers in the Spanish market, our university. And we're experimenting also because we have students that take classes from one professor from one campus to another campus. And this project called Professor Avatar is looking at the possibilities of doing that. And so these students are in our Monterrey campus, and the professor that is there is 500 kilometers from Monterrey in Zacatecas, and it's a holographic representation of the professor in real time. And what we have found out is that the students feel closer to the professor when they see the professor in a holographic representation instead of a regular video conference. But as our model is very collaborative and constructivist, you cannot do everything lecturing. So how we solve the problem of working in teams with this mobile robot, the professor roams in the classroom looking what the teams are doing, and on the screen on the bottom solves the question of the professors. So we have used this in our campus and also in international projects with universities from Guatemala and Chile and Colombia. So I show you an example that they are taking, how you say in English, they're practicing with example. So they have a meeting using all the technologies they use in the different projects. I think one more, okay. So this is like a rubber party of professors that I'm having, using the technologies to see how they work. And that's happening in one of our campus in Monterrey, and they're all from different places, for instance, Chile, Guatemala, etc. And so that's what we do in Techlabs, identification of threats, experimentations to find out how education will be in 2030, and then measuring the impact of projects. And that's all. Thank you very much.